Okay, it's Nick Dutch here, one more time, and so on and so forth. Great to be back on the camera, really tremendous. I've had further thoughts about Christmas. I've had further thoughts about the wonderful season of Halloween, which is steadily and slowly creeping its way towards us. And what I'm going to be doing as far as YouTube work is concerned, and I've naturally set myself a course of reading, thanks to the free Kindle for PC application, as well as 2 free Kindle books which I've downloaded and I'm going through. I feel I should be able to create what is promising to be a very interesting Halloween and Christmas time. On the subject of Halloween, I've been reading the original short story of Sleepy Hollow. I'm sure you may have heard of the Johnny Depp film. The characters in the original story do have some bearing and familiarity with the characters within the Johnny Depp film, but the kind of like scientist detective character which Johnny Depp played was not actually present in the original story at all. So I found that obviously quite interesting. But, and of course there's the story of the Headless Horsemen as well, which is parts of the story of Sleepy Hollow. The story was written in a perfectly poetic style. The wording was sumptuous in its eloquence. It was a wonderful expression of rural life and the rural dream, and of simple pleasures expressed beautifully in the attitude of someone who lives in a tiny remote rural village a certain period of time ago. So it was fascinating, and the mythology surrounding the Headless Horseman was also very intriguing. I don't know whether we'll be focusing on Mr. Crane or whether we'll be focusing in on the Headless Horseman himself on Halloween. But either way, an experience brought about through ritualistic or meditation type means at about that time would be amazing. And I've also been going through the original Charles Dickens work, A Christmas Carol. We've all, seen it on TV, or versions of the same story on TV. We've seen various different films that were made based upon the same story. But going back to the original text itself has provided me with a lot more clarity as to the mentality of the Scrooge character and what he was about. I mean, there's some things which which is mentioned about him in the early stages, prior to and during the visits of Marley's ghost, which are very familiar. Familiar in the fact that we see them every single day with the people we work for and people we work with. You get the impression that Charles Dickens wasn't necessarily speaking of the epitome of evil, but of a normal person who has to look after himself, who's taken it too far and has therefore gone out of balance emotionally and morally speaking. I mean, his character is written as someone who essentially, does the equivalent of saving energy, but he doesn't do it obviously through making solar panels. He does it through not heating the office. And so he's got a clerk in the office who's trying to warm himself by a candle, which is a terrifying prospect for like the dead of winter in those times. If you think about that, the only source of heat this person who's trying to work hard, working on ledger accounts, has got is just one candle. That's over the top. That's taking things a bit too seriously. But I think his character's written in a very interesting manner. Whether, again, I will be focusing on Scrooge, or whether I'll be focusing in on one or all 3 of the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future, or whether I should be thinking about the original messenger, that's another issue. But the original story of A Christmas Carol is fascinating. Now, the contrast between the writing style for Sleepy Hollow and the writing style for A Christmas Carol is stark, very dramatically different. Sleepy Hollow is written as poetry. The characters are described in a very poetic manner. There's a strong feeling of, well, not really a feeling. The characters are expressed by a way of simile and metaphor, much more than the character of Scrooge is in A Christmas Carol, in which the writing is much more straight to the point and direct. It's not quite so descriptive or flowery, so to speak. And I think that adds to the kind of like austere nature of the story, and the fact it's trying to portray certain forms of Christian morality within the time of Charles Dickens, expressed through this rather over-the-top expression of frugality in the form of Scrooge. So yeah, I'm learning a lot, but we'll see whether we're going to go for the Headless Horseman or Mr. Crane, one of the other characters from Sleepy Hollow, or which particular beings or characters from the story of A Christmas Carol we're going to do for Christmas. So I think that the colder months of the year, on the run up to midwinter, or the coldest time of the year in the UK, is going to be pretty cool as far as my YouTube entertainment is concerned. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Sleep well.